Excellent music, I have to say.
Yes, guy.
I was going to request.
Some might say yes, guy.
I was going to request an all Led Zeppelin Friday, but maybe we could do it now.
It's like JP knows that this is on vinyl in your house very, very often.
It's right. You don't even have to get into the underwear to listen to it.
Guy, I wasn't going to go there, but you went there.
Well, I had to. I mean,
is that still a thing? Is that still happening?
You have to ask O-Dog. He made it up.
I'm sure he did. He wouldn't just make it up out of nowhere, would he?
Oh, what are the odds? I mean, it's listed on FanDuel. What are the odds that O-Dog would make up a story about me?
Yes, guy.
Well, there it is.
Thank you, JP.
Ben Verlander will be by very shortly to talk about Major League Baseball and the Jays trading Justin Turner to Seattle. And the other, while we're waiting for Ben to hit his regular time slot, the football, the NFL is here, and, Aaron Rodgers got stepped on at workout today and not happy.
He?
Got stepped on, yeah.
Did you?
Doesn't like it.
There was some video going around of like Aaron Rodgers getting into it with some of his receivers.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? It's like, okay, he's a very, very good quarterback. Still is, even in his older age. Hopefully he stays healthy and the Jets can have a good season. But this kind of friction already is not good for everyone involved with this team. And by the way, did he not show up to minicamp? Like, maybe you could have ironed these things out if you showed up a little sooner instead of showing up now.
Well, yeah, there's Aaron Rodgers is it's an interesting situation because it seems like he's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, doesn't it? Like that's honestly, since he left.
Literally.
Well, last year there was a report that he was
Guy.
considering like running for office or something. Like on one of the tickets, there was a report that he was on the short list for JFK. Or RFK Jr.
He just had to keep busy.
He's got to impose himself.
But I'm just saying, he's going to these retreats, and then he's like, I don't know if I want to play. Like, this guy,
Listen, the retreats and all that stuff, it's definitely a little different. It can be perceived as goofy. If it makes him a better football player, ultimately, that's all the Jets care about. They are so desperate to have a team in the playoffs.
They got 4 snaps out of him last year.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, can they get more than 4 games out of him this year? Like, I don't know. We'll see how he comes back. But, last year, he's doing the rehab. He's out there in warm-up, making sure that everyone can see him, throwing balls around, making sure he's got a little jump in his step. And, now this year, he comes back with some expectations around his team. Everything basically hinges on how well can Aaron Rodgers play for the New York Jets, because there's going to be a good D, there's going to be a good O-line, there's going to be some receivers for him to throw to, there's going to be a pretty good run game. I don't know. Am I telling you better than me?
No,
everything is there for this team other than
the quarterback.
They need a competent quarterback who's not Zach Wilson.
They won like 7 games last year with not competent quarterbacks.
Right.
To say it lightly. Like Zach Wilson playing. That's where this team is at. Like, if they get decent quarterback play, they're a team that can compete for a wild card spot. Absolutely. They've got an electric defense. You can look at that defense, and certainly I think they could make the argument that they're a top 5 defense in the NFL. Garrett Wilson going into his, third, fourth year into the league. He's an up-and-coming rising star at the wide receiver position. They brought in Mike Williams to kind of opposite him on the other side. They tried to get some offensive linemen. They brought in Tyron Smith, kind of shore up that left tackle position. Like, they've added pieces to try and help insulate Rodgers. They got him on a weapon. Breece Hall's coming off of a healthy offseason.
Let me
He's
ask you
expected
something.
to be a big-time piece this year.
Is the Hackman still running the offense there?
Ooh, I would imagine. I'm pretty sure he's still there.
But they go. It doesn't really matter
Nate
because
Hackett's
they go way back to Green Bay. Like they would have a good rapport, and he's run an offense that Aaron Rodgers obviously has had a lot of success with. So that's not going to be a hurdle for them. But you're right. Like, there is the makings of a playoff team are there in New York. It's up to Aaron Rodgers to A, stay healthy, and B, show that he actually does have some form, because after last year, Al's brother, we don't really know what kind of game Aaron Rodgers has left, because we didn't see him last year. We saw him for 4 snaps.
And it's not easy at 40 years old coming off an Achilles tear, I'd imagine.
Oh, at any age.
Exactly. So especially at that point in his career, and does he still want to hang around? Does he still want to be? It doesn't seem like he's fully invested in football. He's got some outside things that he's got an eye on, and that if I was a Jets fan, or if I was Jets ownership and I gave up a lot and paid him a lot, that'd bug me. That would bug me.
I think that's just him trying to get mentally into things. It's going to take it out on other people.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move over to baseball. Joining us now on the Maple Toyota Hotline is Ben Verlander, host of the Flippin Bats podcast. Ben, welcome. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Just trying to keep up with everything happening. Appreciate you having me.
Our pleasure to have you on. So the Jays moving Justin Turner to Seattle for R.J. Schreck, and a low-rated prospect by the Mariners, number 29 on their prospect list, 9th-round pick. So, but what the Jays are doing really is sort of reverse asset management, isn't it? Trading out expiring contracts for farm prospects. What's your read on what they've done, and what can they do next?
Yeah, I think what they've done so far is exactly what you just said. Look, these were the obvious pieces that are going to go once you look in the mirror and realize, hey, it ain't happening at this point. We're 7 games under 500. We're not going to make the playoffs. Where do we start? Well, you start with these expiring contracts or the one-year contracts and getting rid of them and trying to replenish a little bit the minor leagues and get something for them because, next year they're going to be gone. So let's get something for them. And these prospects, and one important thing is I think when you look at prospects, naturally when a trade is made and you see, okay, who are we getting in return, you find the name and then you go to the prospect list and look where they are. That doesn't really tell the whole story. Scouts are there scouting players. You could have the pick of the number 8 prospect, the number 15 prospect, and the number 28, and teams might like the number 28 guy more. So these prospect lists don't really mean a ton when it comes down to it. It is about just replenishing a farm system and trying to get a player that might produce and help you out in a year or 2 years,
Of all the trades that the Jays have made so far, I think the one that Jays fans would have the hardest time with is moving on from Danny Jansen. I don't speak for all of Jays fans, but I speak for myself where, at one point that was such a position of strength for this team. You had all-star Alejandro Kirk, you had Danny Jansen, you had an up-and-coming Gabriel Moreno. Now you don't have Jansen, you don't have Moreno, and you don't have the all-star version of Alejandro Kirk. Is it hard to believe how mismanaged the catcher position has been here in Toronto?
Yeah, you can say mismanaged, but also you thought, with Alejandro Kirk, he was a guy. He was an all-star guy, and he hasn't shown to be that version of himself since then. So, I don't exactly know what you can expect from an organization to handle things. They thought they had one guy and ended up, as of now, not being that guy. And then, that was very helpful to have Danny Jansen as some, at the time, backup, and then this platoon help and a 1-2 punch at the catcher position. And to move on to him, to move on from him, I would say I was a bit surprised when I saw the trade happen. It's quite the fall from grace with the catcher position for the Blue Jays, for sure.
Well, what about the fall from grace from Nate Pearson? He was a top 10 prospect in baseball 3-4 years ago, and all of a sudden he's now getting traded for a couple of minor leaguers, and the Cubs, I guess, hoping that they can revitalize his career. Are you surprised, considering that he still had term on his deal, he wasn't one of those expiring free agents, that the Blue Jays finally gave up on Nate Pearson after being such a highly touted prospect from this organization?
No, I would not say I'm surprised there. I think it at a certain point, you just have to look in the mirror for all sides and every facet of the game or sports in general. Is at a certain point you just acknowledge, okay, we were high on this guy, it didn't work out. Maybe it's time for a change of scenery, change of pace for him. So I'm sure everybody here, in a way, is thankful that this experiment for the Blue Jays has come to an end. Maybe he can revitalize his career elsewhere. Maybe even the Blue Jays are hoping he can revitalize his career elsewhere because they spent a lot of time, a lot of hopefulness, hoping that he would turn it around and become the star that I think many people thought he could. And it just never happened. But I wouldn't say I'm surprised. It was time. It was time to go in a different direction.
So while we're on that, Ben, in terms of time spent on developing prospects, I don't know what it was in the past, but is it more now? It seems to me that it's sort of an onus on any organization to make this work out. I don't know what the time frame would be, but you'd like to say that you exhausted all possibilities, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been more of a shift in today's game than maybe in the past was because players, I feel like you used to have teams way more willing to just go out and spend, but now you kind of have a divide in the league of teams that are willing to and able to outspend others. And then if you're not one of those teams, you have to be a team that's going to build from within and figure out how to do it and put the right pieces in place within the organization to build from within and to produce and to have those prospects evolve in the way you hope. If not, you're not going to be able to ever keep up. And I think right now what we're seeing is teams that have been able to do that. The teams that are going to spend are going to be there. The Dodgers are going to be there come playoff time. But the teams that are able to produce players and draft correctly and bring them up and have them evolve into a star player, let's say like the Orioles, a team that was bad, but a team that drafted the right way and then had their prospects come along and brought them up the right way. And I think you're seeing two different versions of that. And it's almost like, what are the Blue Jays? On what side of that are they trying to become? We heard all about them being in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes this offseason and the amount of money they were willing to spend and what they were willing to go do. They didn't end up getting him, obviously, but where did you pivot? All that money that you were ready to spend, where did you pivot that to? I mean, Justin Turner, for a few months, you paid, you went and got him after, but really, so I don't know. I'm just kind of confused as an outsider of what is this organization trying to do? How are they going about winning? What option are you trying to do? Is it spend money? Because if you're going to spend, then do it. Go do it. If you're not going to spend, and you're going to do the deals like a Justin Turner deal to put in place around your young core, then do that. But it feels like they never have really committed to one or the other, and they're just kind of half in, half out in every aspect that they've been doing.
Well, and I guess part of that goes to like they have spent more money than they have in the past. They're just not making that money work. Like they're not maximizing that money with what's happening on the field, which is a shame. But they'll have no choice but to keep spending money because they have talked about how they want to be competitive for a playoff spot in 2025. And, in the AL East, we talk about it all the time. The Yankees are never going anywhere. The Red Sox can be good on any given year. The Orioles have really built a sustainable team. How difficult is that going to be for the Jays to kind of turn this thing around, especially considering they have to deal with the AL East?
They're in a tough spot. They're in a real tough spot right now. I mean, you look at, for me, the cream of the crop in the AL East is the Baltimore Orioles. And to your point, the Yankees are always going to be there. I mean, they went out and got Juan Soto, and I don't know if they're going to hand him the blank check that they should to keep him and Aaron Judge back-to-back in the lineup, but they're always going to be competitive. And the Orioles are going to be good for the next decade. I know, look, they can't pay every single one of these guys that has turned their franchise around, but they can pay a lot of them, and they're going to be good for a long time. So you start looking at, if you're the Jays, in the mirror and say, okay, what can we do to be competitive in this division? And the answer is not, half-assing anything one way or another. It's going to have to be, if you're going to rebuild, you have to rebuild. And if that involves, I don't know. The name has been thrown out there. I don't know how. I don't have my finger on the pulse as much as you guys do in Toronto, but does that involve trading of Vladdy Jr.? What do the fans want there? I don't know. But this version of the team, led by Vladdy and Bo Bichette and a strong pitching staff, hasn't worked. It just and the pieces you add around it haven't worked. And it's not going to work to be a 500 team in the AL East. It's not going to work to be slightly above 500 because the division is going to be so good. So figure out what direction you want to go in and fully commit. And if that involves a rebuild of sorts, I think that's understandable given the division they're in.
It's understandable, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. Like I have a feeling Vladdy is going to be here or hopefully for a long time. And I think you hope that Bo is just having a bad year that's been, injury plagued and he's played through it. And hopefully he can bounce back next year. The other thing that the Jays have to contend with in the AL East is that Tampa Bay has basically decided they're going to be sellers and they're going to almost beat the Jays to it. You know, they kind of picked the lane quicker than the Jays did. And now, you know, all of a sudden they've made 6 trades, and a team that always seems to draft and produce talent is now going to go back to the well on that model. And do they beat the Jays up the ladder as they try and climb back up the AL East?
Yeah, that's a great question. Exactly to the point you just made. It's pick a lane and go. And I have been higher, I think, on the Blue Jays than most over the last. I had them to win the division last year. That didn't play out and work, obviously. I wouldn't say I was big believers in them this year just because it was largely the same team and nothing crazy done in the offseason. But I'm still like, with a rotation that they're able to have, with the arms that they can throw out there, with bats like Vladdy Jr., and like you said, with Bo Bichette, who's hopefully just having a down year and dealing with those injuries, but a good baseball player, obviously. Like, I don't think they're that far from being a really good baseball team. I do just think it involves looking in the mirror and committing one way or another. And that's not an answer that I can have from the outside or that you guys can have. It's going to have to be the front office. And okay, what does this offseason look like? Are we going to go get the biggest free agents that are going to be available out there? Are we going to be involved in the Juan Sotos, the Pete Alonsos, the big bats that are going to be out there? Or are we going to commit with this team and add around them differently, or commit to the future and trading guys this year? I don't know, but I do get tired and frustrated seeing this kind of wishy-washy approach from the front office that can't seem to make up their own mind on how close they are to winning and on what direction they need to go, because the fans can't make up that answer. All everyone else knows is, well, it's not working. It's not winning. So how do you go about it? I don't think they're that far. I just think it's up to the front office to make a decision and go with it.
Ben, who's the team or the player at this point with about 24 hours to go until the trade deadline that you're kind of waiting on for them or that big move to be made?
Yeah, I think there's a couple teams that, in my mind, I have an episode of Flippin Bats coming out tomorrow talking about the preview, and to this point, who I think desperately needs to do something. I think the Yankees need to do more. I've heard talks of Jack Flaherty being close to them, but I think the Yankees, the Braves, and the Astros are all teams that really, okay, what if you're going for it, what are you going to do? The Astros, obviously, the Jose Abreu situation didn't work out. The Astros need a first baseman and a starting pitcher in there. The Yankees need a starting pitcher and probably some lineup depth. The Braves, if you were to tell me at the beginning of the year that Spencer Strider would go down very early for the entire year, but at the trade deadline they're going to have the second best rotation according to ERA in all of baseball, I would tell you, well, man, they probably are the favorites to win the World Series. Well, no, they're struggling to they're struggling to potentially make the playoffs. They need offensive help. There's been massive underperformance across the board. If you remember in 2021, Acuna goes down again, just like he did this year. And they went and added pieces that ultimately led to them winning the World Series. All different pieces. That weren't the big sexy move at the deadline, but the Jock Peterson that changed that locker room culture, the Eddie Rosario that got hot in the playoffs and turned it all around for them, the Adam Duvall that really helped in the playoffs. The Braves, to me, need to do something offensively because the offense hasn't been the same this year. So I'll give you those 3 teams: Yankees, Astros, Braves.
In teams that have done, and we talked about this before we went on the air today, what's with the Cubs? I mean, am I making a mistake here? Why are they so active?
What's with the Cubs is a great question. At a certain point, you have to make the right move for your team in the future, right? So Isaac Paredes is a all-star third baseman that has the ability to be really good. And then it's, well, are the Cubs buyers? What's happening here? And then I still don't. I think they're going to be sellers come here over the next 24 hours. I think that's what's going to happen. But they are more active so far, and it's more just a head scratcher at this point. What's going on? So we'll see. But like, is Cody Bellinger going to be on the move? Are they going to move Nico Horner? I don't know what they're going to do, but seeing Paredes go to them was certainly a shock.
I want to get your opinion on this Garrett Crochet situation. Earlier on the station today, Buster Olney was on the morning show, and he was talking about how he's indicated that he's going to want a contract if he's going to pitch into the playoffs. And, you know, as a former player, I'm curious how you think that would kind of gel with guys in the locker room. And then I guess from a player's perspective, like, do you understand? Can you sympathize that? Like, what do you make of this situation?
Yeah, I think it is. You can definitely sympathize with that. The entire situation of everything going on for players here, like I think when it comes trade deadline season, I think oftentimes fans just kind of get caught up in the moment, and I get it, but it's a lot. And when you're dealing with if you're dealing with underperformance in a season or overperformance, and then it gets around this time of year and you're thinking, am I being traded? Am I going to have to uproot my family and move across the country? Like, this time of year, I really do sympathize with players and what they're going through. It is not as simple as just getting traded and going to a new team. There's a lot that's at play during this time of year, and it's a lot mentally on players and their families. So absolutely sympathize.
Ben, I want to squeeze this one in. Skeens goes tonight. Where is he in your mind in Cy Young talk?
I think in Cy Young talk right now in the National League, I think Chris Sale is the front runner. I have Paul Skeens. I mean, look, if we're talking right now, like if the season ended now, obviously it's a different conversation. But if we're game planning on him doing this over the rest of the season, I think Paul Skeens is going to be a top 2 or 3 in the Cy Young voting. I do think it's Chris Sales to lose, but I think right now Paul Skeens is a top pitcher in the game of baseball, and if he continues to pitch this way, or at least be as good as he's looked, I think he's going to finish probably second or third in the NL Cy Young voting. You know, Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler, Paul Skeens.
So we saw Paul Skeens throwing a no-hitter, and then he hits a pitch count, so he gets pulled from the game. And then Dylan Cease ends up throwing the second no-hitter in Padres history. It feels like the no-hitter might be coming to an end, but we get to see one, which is nice. Is it, do you feel like it is, we're going to see fewer of these as time goes on just because of these pitch counts? And where do you kind of stand on that, making, pulling guys from games when they do have a no-hitter going?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think ultimately we're getting, like, for example, Dylan Cease had, 93, 95 pitches after the eighth, something like that. He went in the dugout and was told he was done by his manager. And to me, that's just perplexing. I don't get it. I get frustrated at times with. I absolutely think analytics has a place in the game of baseball, but at a certain point, you have to have feel of the game and feel as a manager. And to take out your starter with a no-hitter, that's something that he'll remember for the rest of his life, because a pitch count, a number on a piece of paper starts with a 9, and you're worried it's going to start with a 10 here in a few pitches. It's like, well, talk to the pit, talk to him. Obviously he's dominating on the field, but how are you feeling? And you know what? You could say, well, obviously he's going to say he wants to go back out there, but to which I'd say, yeah, of course he does. And if you can tell that he wants to go back out, and you can tell that his mannerisms are all about going back out there, then let him do it. It just gets frustrating, and hopefully we can get back closer to that with, Paul Skeens is a gamer and wants to go out there, and they wanted him to pitch into the ninth, and, Cease wanting to go back out there. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the pitcher just having the say of, hey, I'm doing this. And I do think the league is really looking into now how to go about getting back to that and getting pitchers going deeper in games and ways to evolve the game a little to do that. And I think it's necessary. I think it's great for the game. I love seeing Skeens go back out there for the ninth. I obviously was hoping Dylan Cease would go back out there for the ninth. So it does. It gets frustrating that we often just rely on a number on a scoreboard or a piece of paper of how many pitches he's thrown.
Ben, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. It was a fun conversation.
Of course. Appreciate you guys for having me.
That's Ben Verlander, host of the Flippin Bats podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. And he joined us in the Maple Toyota hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including the Tundra 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com.
Yes, guy.
Is next. Yes Guy, No Guy is next on OverDrive, on TSN 1050, TSN 2, the iHeartRadio app, and online. Stay with us. So, the Yes Guy OverDrive continuing. Jim, Tatti, Frankie Corrado, and Mike DiStefano. And it is 5:30, and because we promised to do this every single day this week, it's time for my favorite game.
Yes Guy, No Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, drivers and passengers, time now for the OverDrive use of Yes Guy, No Guy. Producer Doogie is going to help us out. Y'all set, Doogie?
Yes, sir.
No, the answer was yes, guy. I mean,
Yes,
come on.
Oh,
Know your
my
spot, guy.
goodness.
Come on, guy. Yeah, come on.
Come on, dude.
I didn't know if I could say it or not, guy.
You
He
can,
just
guy.
granted
I just-
everyone
If you grant
permission.
it to everybody
Yeah.
in
It's
that
like an
room, I
open
guess we can do it
permission.
back here.
Yeah.
Although you used to say like often duplicated, never
often ripped off.
often ripped off. It's something like that. You had a different line in there.
Oh, yeah, it was always derogatory. It was always a slam.
Yeah, you always
Yeah.
try and just,
Yeah.
throw a little dig at people.
Yeah.
Often
Or-
duplicated, never authenticated.
Oh,
There
I
you
like
go,
it.
JP from
yeah.
the top rope.
JP's a
I
yes
like that.
in the Yes Guy family.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Well, everything. Okay, can we just get one thing out there?
Yeah,
Everything has derived from Yes Guy, No Guy. Confirm or deny.
it's the original sports radio, sports broadcasting game. The original game.
Yes Guy.
We do on Sports Center. We'll do hot or not.
Yeah, I wonder where that came from.
We'll do. We do fantasy or reality.
Yeah, okay.
And so basically everything is a ripped off version of Yes Guy, No Guy.
The
We're all
improve-
original.
But the
all
improvement
original.
is nobody rips off Yes Guy, No Guy anymore. They come up with their own,
Yes.
which is kind of what I did, right?
Yes Guy.
Okay, there we go. Go ahead, Dookie.
All right, guys. Well, we saw Alex Nylander, the brother of William Nylander, get signed to a one-year deal with the Marlies. So, yes guy, no guy. William Nylander and Alex Nylander will play with each other at least once next season.
In the NHL.
You ready
the
for this
NHL.
one? No Guy. That is a no guy because although Alex Nylander has a very good chance to play NHL games and he may rip it up with the Marlies, if the Leafs are bringing in any players around the fringes of their roster, they're going to be 6'2", 220 pounds. They're going to be big, different types of players. Like they kind of already have the skill nucleus.
Yeah.
And, if they're going to give Nick Robertson more of a chance to take on a skilled role, chances are they're going to bring in a little more meat. And I don't think he meets that criteria. So
Wow.
it's a no guy.
I'm going to say yes, guy. I am going to say yes, guys. Is Nicky Bobby going to be here? I mean, he demanded a trade reportedly, and if he's not around, I think there is an opportunity in the top 9 if someone wants to go and grab it. So I'm going to go yes, guy. I think that he does. He's somebody who had a really solid back half of the season last year. Once he ended up in Columbus, 11 goals, 15 points in 23 games, had a hat trick when he was with the Blue Jackets. So something might have clicked for him. And I like the bet that the Maple Leafs are making, bringing him in on an AHL deal. And if he outperforms and if he proves himself well and things come in during training camp and he plays well, I think he could easily turn that into an NHL deal and at some point get into the lineup. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a line with Willie. It's just, those two play together at some point this year.
Let me
Yes,
follow
guy.
up on that. In order for that to happen,
Yeah.
what needs to happen for Alex Nylander? Like, what does it look like with the Marlies? And then what does it look like for the Leafs that they're signing him to a contract and bringing him up? Like, what needs to happen in order for him to be playing with the Leafs, playing with his brother?
I mean, there could be an injury to one of those players in the top 9, right? Nick Robertson's had an incredibly difficult time staying healthy throughout his entire career. Same with Bobby McMahon. Bobby McMahon's had a lot of injuries in the 2 years that he's been here in Toronto
That's
as well.
fair.
So you can easily look at 1 or 2 injuries, and next up, you're looking at Alex Nylander possibly as a guy who could come in.
I got to go no guy just because he's on the AHL contract. I think it's a bit of a bend to get him out of that status.
Okay.
I just don't see it happening.
Well, the whole
Hey,
thing.
that's mine. That's mine, guy.
What? I don't see it happening?
That's mine, guy.
Did you
TM.
trademark
Checks
it?
in the mail.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's public domain, guy. if you let it sit out there, this is the key. You have to create it and then register it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Public domain. Sorry, guy.
All right.
It's not real unless it's been authenticated.
The lawyers will be in touch.
What do you got?
Yeah,
I just
go
don't
ahead.
see it happening.
Oh,
There you
thank
go.
Oh,
you.
well, yeah.
That makes it legit.
No,
It's a drop. It's a real drop.
No, I know the whole process. That's not legit. Go ahead, Doogie, number 2.
Yes guy, no guy. Leon Draisaitl will sign an extension with the Oilers before the start of this season.
I'll give you a yes guy, Doogie, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a long extension or a short extension. Like, I could see him definitely saying he wants to stick around in Edmonton, especially with McDavid, try and win a championship or maybe multiple Stanley Cups. I feel like he is loyal to that team and feels like there probably is some unfinished business there. And they will make every concession to him money-wise that he possibly wants. Like, they'll give him everything he wants in that situation. So I don't see why he would be looking elsewhere unless he wants to play somewhere else. But I don't think that would be the case. I think Leon Draisaitl would be back as an Oiler, and I could see him getting an extension done before the season just to eliminate any kind of distraction.
Yeah, it would make sense. My question to you, though, Frankie, is, and it does make sense, but are you signing him to a 1-year deal if you're Edmonton? Like, I know that's been thrown out there, but like, what does Edmonton
he would
gain?
want a 1-year deal? I think,
that's what everyone's talking about. They're like, well, you signed the 1 year, and then you find out it's McDavid in it for the long haul, and then you both sign together. In the following season when McDavid can extend.
Yeah, you could probably get a little bit of an indication as far as what McDavid is thinking for his future. Maybe they can make it line up for, I don't know, a mid to short-term deal. That's purely speculation. Like,
Right.
I don't know, because these are guys now that we're seeing with the cap going up and more money, kind of being generated. They don't need to sign an 8-year deal because they could sign a 4-year deal, make a lot of money, and then sign another 4-year deal and make even more money because these guys' games, they don't have to worry that they're just going to fall off a cliff. They're such good players that they can have that security within their own game to know that they can make that kind of money. It's different because so many guys want the 7-8 year deal, but these guys are built differently like we see every year in the playoffs.
Well, let's be honest. The market's changing. There's going to be more money around. Carolina signed
Natchez?
for 2 years. So that's a bridge deal at 6.5 each year. So, I mean, if you're Carolina, you probably wanted to sign him for 8.5 on a longer term, because 2 years from now, he's going to get more than that, much more than that.
Yeah, he's got to. I think he's got to show a little bit there too. Like he's going to have to prove himself. It is a little. Like,
well, you bet on yourself, sure.
People talk about those 1-year deals, like show me deals. I feel like this is like a 2-year show me deal with just 1 year. And then maybe a little extra security for you because you're a good player. Like they wanted to trade him at one point. Well, now he's back.
Does he only have 2 years left till unrestricted free agency?
I don't know. I haven't checked that far.
Yeah. Because that would make sense if they were just, we don't want to have this song and dance next year, so let's just do the 2-year deal, and then we don't got to worry about it.
There you go.
But, so my answer on Draisaitl would be yes, guy. He signs before the start of the season.
To eliminate the distraction, Jimmy?
Yeah,
is that how you feel?
They want to focus in. I mean, they were so close last year. It doesn't need to turn into a sideshow with distractions. Yes guy, no guy, number 3.
All right, guys, I saw a huge debate online about this topic, and I wanted to get all of your opinions on it. So yes guy, no guy, Sidney Crosby is a lock to be the captain for Team Canada at the Four Nations Face-Off next February.
Going to say yes guy, seniority rules.
Yep.
Yes guy.
Yep. I am
Yes,
also,
guy.
Thank you, JP. Can you play that for me as well? Yes, guy?
Yes, guy.
Thank you. I'm going to say yes, guy. I at some point in international hockey for Canada, it's heading the way of McDavid being the captain.
But why not now? It's
Because-
McDavid's team, though.
Because Sid is still playing at a very high level. He still has a massive presence. I think he has so much respect around that group. And Canada and Crosby, they haven't played internationally since the World Cup of Hockey? Like best on best? Like, I think this might be just the one more go around for Sid to be the guy and show McDavid what it's all about and just pass the baton for the Olympics if you want to in 2026. But I think it still is Sid as the captain.
I could see that argument. If by the Olympics, it may be a bit of a different situation, I guess, just one more year. But I'm going to no guy because I still think that it's McDavid's team. He's the greatest player on planet Earth right now. I think Crosby, it's unfortunate that he lost out on 2 Olympic game cycles because of the hoopla that went on between the NHL and the IOC. But he won his gold as the captain for Canada back in 2014. And if you recall, back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and 2010, obviously the golden goal. But in 2014, he considered giving up the captaincy to Jonathan Toews at that time. 10 years later, I think you got to look at it and say, all right, let's give it to McDavid. He's the future of the sport for this country. I think he ends up with the C.
AB goes lone wolf on us. Do we have time for one more?
Yes, we do, guys.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Let's shift our focus to some baseball and the Blue Jays with the trade deadline at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So yes guy, no guy, it is a good idea that the Blue Jays don't trade Vlad or Bo at the deadline.
Oh, solid yes guy. I mean, that's just a backward step for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely yes guy.
It's a no-brainer, Doogie. It is yes guy, because if this team wants to be competitive next year, they can't just go full scorched earth rebuild. Like, they are going to have to make sure they do everything they can to keep Vladdy around for the long term. And Bo has been a very, very good player throughout his entire career. Now, this season hasn't gone the way, he had planned, Jays fans had planned. There's probably some injury issues that he's been dealing with. But in the long run, like, if this team wants to be competitive sooner rather than later, they have to do so with Vladdy and Bo around.
Yeah, we'll make that a clean sweep. Yes, guy. The problem, I think Vlad, you want to keep him as a core piece going forward. Vlad is definitely someone you want to build around this organization.
10-year deal.
He's someone you're going to give. And the way he's playing now, 3 months ago, you could have had a conversation. But the way that he's playing right now, I mean, he's absolutely mashing over the course of the last, really, like 2 months almost. In the last couple of months, he got an OPS up in the 1,000 range. He's got like 12 homers, I think, since June 1st. Like, this guy is finally playing at the level we all anticipated him playing at, like an MVP, like an all-star. For Bo, the problem here with Bo, not to say that he may not be someone you look to moving in this summer, but right now, you're not going to get anything for him. First of all, he's on the injured list, so they can't even trade him.
It's not that you won't get anything,
but you're
for
not
him, Al's brother.
You won't get enough.
You're not going to
get enough for him.
Yes.
Right? Obviously, teams are going to give up a lot, but you're not going to get enough to make it
You're
worth
not
your
selling
while.
high. You could have sold much higher if you wanted to sell on Bo Bichette, but you wouldn't because you thought your team was, had a chance at making the playoffs. So why would you move on from a player like that? And he plays a premium position. Like, if they are talking about this quick turnaround, like they've been saying, they're going to need to have Bichette in the mix in order to do so.
100%. And he's got to rebound and not be a replacement level player, which is what he's been all season long.
So let me just squeeze one in. I know I'm going to get into trouble here, but yes guy, no guy, quick turnaround. My answer would be no guy.
Oh, unfortunately, I probably am a no guy on the quick turnaround. It just seems like it's too hard, considering that these guys have had a lot of runway to get it right, and they've gotten the team to this point where they have to restart, and there hasn't been any success, other than getting to the playoffs in a wild card situation. Like, we're talking deep into playoffs. Yeah. It hasn't happened since the Anthopoulos era. So I don't know how you can entrust this new cycle to work out.
Well, are you talking deep into the playoffs or fight for a playoff spot in terms of a rebound?
Well, if you want a turnaround, you're talking deep.
Yeah, then
they've already had the other.
I think they can come back next year and be competitive and fight for a wild card spot again. Like, a lot went wrong this year. Like, a lot has gone wrong.
A lot went wrong last year, too.
You're right. And it'd be tough to imagine it happens 3 years in a row.
I know.
But we've seen it happen. Maybe
if it happened a year ago. You're starting pitching.
But like, Bo Bichette's going to hit 203 next season. Yeah. I find that hard to believe.
Maybe if it happens 3 years in a row, though, it's more than just bad luck, Al's brother. Maybe that's just as good as you are.
And at that point, then that's it for the front office.
You are who you think you are. That concludes Yes Guy, No Guy for today. It's back tomorrow at 5:30. Coming up next, something to chew on. And Doogie, you're going to have to tell me how we play this game. This is OverDrive on TSN 2, TSN 1050, the iHeartRadio app, and online. Oh, Yes Guy. What a tune that is. Welcome back to OverDrive. Jim Tatti, Frankie Corrado, and Mike DiStefano, a.k.a. Al's brother, a.k.a. Cugino Mike. Something to Chew On is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Summer is short, so make sure you make the most of patio season at Boston Pizza. Join us for a long lunch or a late night and see you for a pint on the patio soon. We'll see you soon.
Yes, Guy.
Yeah, there you go. That's an invite.
Do we have a question?
Doogie's going to help us out.
Okay.
All right, boys. We posed this on X. What has been the biggest story for Canada at the Paris Olympics so far? Canada soccer's redemption, Canada basketball, Summer McIntosh's dominance picking up a gold in the 400-meter individual medley today, or another story. What do you guys think?
It is Summer McIntosh, 17 years old,
Yep.
wins her first Olympic gold today, her second medal of these Olympics. And what did she win by 5 seconds?
Oh.
Like she
she
dummied
crushed.
everyone.
Wasn't even close.
And it was
Yeah.
the first time, I believe it
25
was
feet.
the first time Canada has won a gold in the 400-meter medley, like individual. Unbelievable. And she's only 17 years old. So good for her. She has to be the story.
I think if we're using those three, if we're talking Canada soccer redemption specifically, or the Canada soccer situation, which one are we rolling with?
I'd say it's a redemption from the
Focus
scandal
on the
situation.
positive.
Yeah.
Please,
Okay.
Ellis
On the-
brother.
on the
enough,
players.
enough negativity.
Then I'll take Summer McIntosh. I will take the Summer McIntosh. I'm with you, Frankie. I think it's fantastic. You look at what Summer's doing. And we watched the race. We were sitting right here watching earlier today, and she dominated, absolutely dominated those two Americans. She won by like 25 feet. It was insane how she crushed that race. And I'm excited to see what else she has left in her.
No, you put me in a tough spot. I mean, I like the Summer McIntosh story because it's just starting. You can only predict where what we're talking about 2 or 3 Olympics down the line, probably 2.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the soccer redemption just because it's kind of a Canadian thing. Somebody messes up and the players, this goes back decades and decades where the players actually are the show and prove that, and they have. And so this is a really good feel-good story based on battling through adversity.
Yeah, and you know what else it is with the soccer? I feel like as Canadians, we're very concerned with how the world sees us. Like, I think we want to be seen as nice and polite, and we play by the rules.
We have a high standard for integrity.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, and now, Canada soccer gets caught up in this scandal, and it doesn't look good on Canada, and it doesn't look good on the program, but the players have basically said, we're not cheaters.
Yeah.
We're not involved in this. We're not spearheading this. We're just going to go out there and we're going to work hard and we're going to have a great attitude about it. We're going to be positive and we're going to do everything we can to try and advance in these Olympics. And now they've given themselves a legitimate chance. Like, I think it's a very warming redemption story that the players, let's make it very clear, the players have put forward.
Let me say that I think it's possible that the redemption story can become the story if they do it. That's the difference. Summer McIntosh went out and did it today, right?
Yeah.
She's already
Yeah.
gone out and she's got
can't take
half
anything
of the
away
gold.
from her.
She's got half of the medals so far for Canada,
and
gold and a silver. We got to make sure that the redemption story actually follows through in order for this, I think, to be the story to talk about. Because they go out and they draw against Colombia tomorrow. All redemption over. They're done.
Yeah, but
Or
we're
who cares?
asking the question today, and she has.
Well, I
she
know.
has 2 medals.
Yeah.
And the soccer team has redeemed itself to date. Well, they got the 6 points back.
Well, sure.
They've done everything they can
Yeah.
so far. Like, the job is obviously not done yet, but you think about what Summer McIntosh goes up against, in the pool, like, especially against the Americans, right? Like, more funding, programs basically built into collegiate, high school, all that kind of stuff. Like, it feels
17.
like, yes, a 17-year-old, she's like a lone wolf out there going up against, like, she's David versus Goliath, it feels like. I don't know, in some weird way. That's not to take away from her, because what she's doing is so incredible. In a way, I think it adds more to what she's doing. Like, the story of Summer McIntosh, the dominance, I think it adds even more because of what she has to go up against in her opponents and just how truly dominant she is.
Look, we could be sitting here in 4 years' time. We'd be lucky to be sitting here in 4 years' time talking about, you remember when she won her first gold?
Right.
Many gold medals later.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
The book has just started.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if we solved anything. Is this like a live poll, Doogie?
Yes.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, what do you have for results so far?
So it looks like Canada Soccer's redemption coming in at 53%, Canada Basketball 2%, Summer McIntosh's dominance at 40%, and then the other is 5% at about 408 votes with an hour left here.
Oh, there's an hour left, so we'll have the results at the end of the broadcast tonight.
We sure will.
Oh, fabulous.
I don't know if we've ever actually followed through on, where this finishes up at the end of the
follow-up?
show.
This might be one of the first.
Yeah.
If there's one guy who will make sure that we get it in, it's the Tap Man.
Oh, absolutely.
keep penciled in,
in
it's
the last
there.
3 seconds.
Yeah, you keep us honest, Jimmy.
Yeah, we've got 55
problem.
seconds left to to ponder that.
We've worked together enough. We know how it goes.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we know what's going on. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Flint.
Thank you, Flint.
Frankie's
Are you
Memorial
going to
Cup.
Ottawa for the World Juniors this year?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you say thank you, Ottawa, on Twitter, I'll know that you were there.
Well, maybe not. Just thank the host city. I don't have to be
Just
there,
like
right?
you're out in Halifax.
No, I was not. But I said thank you, Halifax, because I used to work there.
Are you going to Traverse City to watch
There's nothing there this year.
Yeah, the Leafs aren't there, but
No.
the Red Wings are.
I wish that the league would do that, like the NBA Summer League. The NHL would have some sort of major, like league-wide
Yeah, be
prospect
nice.
tournament, something to kick around in hour number 3. And that is next. This is OverDrive on TSN 1050, TSN 2, the iHeartRadio app, and online.